Welcome to the next episode of the Real Stories Leadership Series for the Canadian real estate industry. I'm your host, Elafonte Atkins from Matrix 360, and we are excited to collaborate with Informa Canada to deliver a platform for leaders to share their experiences. The intent of our dialogue series is to engage with business leaders as they share their insights and wisdom. Before we commence, just a little tidbit about us, Matrix 360. We are an advisory platform that bridges the human experience with business innovation. It is with great privilege and responsibility that we partner and advocate for people in our industry. Today, we are at the Global Property Market Conference in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and we are honored to be joined by one of the co-chairs of today's conference, Christine Filgiano, Executive Vice President of Portfolio Construction and Risk Management at Ivanhoe Cambridge. Welcome, Christine. Thank you for joining us today. So just to jump right into our conversation, we're not going to waste any time at all. I would like for you to share with us a little bit about the work you currently do and why it matters to you.
It's extremely interesting work. First of all, from an intellectual point of view, it's very stimulating. I'm responsible for determining the investment strategies for the global portfolio of Ivanhoe Cambridge. But really, more importantly, it's about managing Quebecers' pension money, because we are the real estate arm of the Caisse de dépôt et placement du Québec. And our mandate is to manage all the pension funds and for all the depositors of the case. And so we end up making a big difference, I think, I like to think, in people's lives, the way they can retire. So that's very important.
So clearly that's a lot of responsibility, right? What has kept you engaged in this line of work?
My colleagues, really the very smart and interesting people I work with, and as I mentioned, the intellectual challenge, because it's a real puzzle to unravel. Sometimes the solutions don't come easily, and that's very stimulating. It's very motivating. You get a real sense of accomplishment when you're able to achieve success, on the work you're doing, and complete projects successfully, and people appreciate them, and it's very gratifying.
Keeps you on your toes, but there's a reward at the end, essentially, when you finally are able to get it done.
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to take a little moment to kind of go through a journey on your career a little bit. And I understand that you have a wealth of experience in working in financial management, and actually kind of getting your start in one of our leading financial institutions.
Yes.
In this country. So when you were starting out, can you recall something that you had to do? So it could have been a job or a task that you didn't quite enjoy at the time, but in retrospect, when you look back, you realize that it was something that helped to shape you and who you are today.
Well, I started my career as a lender with CIBC, and that was my first employer. And I worked in credit, in working with small, medium-sized businesses. And I would say that what I found very difficult at the time, and I was quite young, so it was an added difficulty because of age and lack of experience, is having to deal with the borrowers, with the clients, on some pretty tough subjects. When I had to get involved, it wasn't always good news in terms of what was happening with their accounts and their ability to meet their obligations towards the bank. And so it was hard. I really learned how to communicate in those days, how to deliver bad news,
Yes.
how to be compassionate, respectful, and detach the person from the subject, tough on the issues, soft on the person. And that's something I kept with me my whole career, my whole life.
These are important life skills.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, okay, awesome. So you've since gone on to advise on a number of committees, as well as boards, related to your professional expertise. But in your life, who is an influential figure for you? So very specifically speaking, is there someone that you have or currently look to professionally for guidance, leadership, advice at all?
There are a couple of people, but I would tell you that I have always believed that everybody you meet in your life has something to teach you. And the challenge is keeping your ears open and making sure you capture that lesson. And so every day of my life, everything I do, I'm very aware that somebody I meet is going to tell me something that, oh, I don't know, and that's going to help me think through something or just a piece of information that I can learn from. And I was lucky in my career to have some terrific colleagues and bosses, and one in particular that was my boss back in the days at the CIBC, and we were still in touch. And I still hear his words of wisdom in my head occasionally.
Anything that you can remember? Any key piece of advice?
Well, he taught me I think one of the biggest lessons he taught me was to work yourself out of the job you're in, transfer your knowledge constantly, make sure that you're always sharing the information with your colleagues, and always find better and more effective ways of doing your work and using less and less resources. So it sounds funny to say, but in fact, if you work with that attitude, you really become, you're very productive, you're a lot more efficient for the organization, and there's always a ton of work to do. I mean, people will keep giving you more to do if you've done well with what you have, and you're more productive. So
Absolutely.
there's never a fear of that.
It's clear that you would be able to handle more responsibility, and then more opportunities come.
That's right? Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So we know that this world is full of people having their own perceptions and perspectives, etc., and everybody's entitled to that. But as you've gone throughout your journey, is there a particular misconception about you that you have been made aware of over the course of your career? So what would you say is perhaps the largest misconception about you that you're like, it's not quite right. Let me set the record straight about that.
I don't know. I guess if I had to guess, I would think that people think I'm a lot more conservative maybe than I really am. I think I have an adventurous side, and I am a bit of a risk taker, even though I manage risk management. Or maybe because of that. So maybe some people expect that I'm just very low-key, mainstream, and very conservative, but my favorite band is Led Zeppelin.
Oh, there you go. We have it.
There you go. That's proof.
Awesome. I want to switch gears just for a moment, and I'm going to share with everyone a little bit of information according to the latest Stats Canada report. Okay, so 82% of the Canadian population live in medium-sized centers or cities across the country, which is one of the highest concentrations among the G7 nations. Also, according to the 2016 Matrix Canadian Real Estate and Diversity Workplace Survey, in Ontario, over 52% of the population in urban centers are female, yet less than 34% of women in leadership are in leadership positions. Also in Ontario, between 35 and 54% of the working population in urban centers identify as visually racialized or ethnic groups, yet less than 25% of them are in leadership positions. So given the current climate, given what we've learned right here with this information, what are some of the challenges that you've witnessed over the course of your career that affect individuals in the groups I just identified, women, racialized groups, regarding their access to opportunity and advancement in leadership?
Well, it's in finance. Finance is not really a field where women naturally tend to go towards. You'll see more women in accounting or in other, math-related or numbers-related fields. For some reason, finance doesn't attract a lot of women. It's better now. But I haven't been able to figure out what is it exactly about that. But I myself have been involved in different work groups different employers in time to try to see how we can attract women, but also keep the younger women in our employment, keep them motivated, keep them focused on exceeding to more senior positions also. I really believe that to a certain extent, we have to just stop overthinking it and just do it. Just hire people, hire more women, hire people that are different than ourselves. Not just women, but people of different cultures, different backgrounds, who see things differently. We are really at risk of what we call groupthink.
Yes.
And you can't, you really limit your opportunities for success if you surround yourself with people that think exactly like yourself. And the best way to ensure against that is to hire people that speak different languages, have different interests, have grown up in different countries, and that makes a big, big difference. And I think we just have to do it. There's been a lot of thinking and policies, and I tend to not really agree with those policies. I think you can't force the issue, and I certainly wouldn't want to think that any job I got was because I was a woman. I don't think that's the case, and I wouldn't want that kind of environment.
So what do you think would work, right? And what, in your experience, have you seen works when trying to mitigate some of these challenges?
Well, I've always said, I've said for a long time that if you want more women in the workplace, in those more senior positions, socially, you have to give men the opportunity to have more balanced lives, because most of these women have either husbands or boyfriends or significant others, partners, and work has to really fit in the context of a whole life. A career doesn't last 5 years. It's a 30, 40-year thing. And you have to make room for relationships, for family, for children, for other interests. Some people have hobbies they want to pursue. So you have to give people the opportunity to pursue all their other personal interests, their relationships and all that. And so it's a matter of offering a more rounded support system for everyone, not just women.
Yes.
So I see it in my own team. The more of the young men take their paternity leaves, and so that their wives can go back to work, which is great. If I didn't encourage them to do that, on the other end of the equation, there's a woman who can't go back to work.
There you go.
And so I really think the key is that way as well.
It's very well said, and there needs to be balance, not for only one particular group, but for everyone, and that work is just an extension or one fragment of part of our entire life.
Exactly.
Right? And we need to pay more attention to that. Okay, well said. So as you think about eventually passing the baton on to the next generations of the workforce, and for the purposes of this particular question, I'll focus on women who are trying and working hard to advance their careers. The successful leader that you are right now, and knowing what you do know, what are some critical pieces of advice that you would offer to them?
You know what? There's no one formula fits all. I think people have to listen to themselves, that little voice inside of you. Be patient with yourself, and believe in yourself. I think it's so easy to give up. It's so easy to think that we can't do it, and whatever it is that we're trying to do. And I think also taking everything with a little grain of salt, sleeping on it. I know I've learned, it's taken me a long time to learn this, but now I know if I have a difficult problem to solve and I just don't know how I'm going to get through it, I make time, I sleep on it, I put it away, I say, okay, I'm not going to decide this today, I'll think about it tomorrow, or I let it simmer in my head. And the subconscious has a funny way of working things out without you even realizing it. So you have to let your brain think about it,
Yes. Rest
you
on
need
it for a
time.
bit.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely works for me. But like you said, it's taken a while for me to get that and realize how powerful that can be.
People are rushed. They want to go
Yeah.
fast, fast, fast. And, thankfully, I'm not a doctor. No one's going to die if I don't make a decision at this moment.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so I have that luxury.
It's true. Sometimes the best decisions do take a little bit of time.
Right.
So great. So just to reiterate, the Real Stories Leadership Series was established to showcase the insight and wisdom of our real estate leaders. So I do have two final questions for you. Okay. So when you're looking into the future, what excites you? Are there any goals, projects, anything that you're working on that you're looking forward to?
What excites me is what's coming. We're really living in a very exciting period of our lives, of life itself. Technology is transforming very deeply the way we live, not just work, but just the way we socialize. It's changed that dramatically, the way people meet each other, the way we work, obviously, but I think it's going to go even further. And so I can't wait to see 20, 30, 40, I guess I'll be around 40 years from now. Maybe
Never
I will.
know.
Yeah, I might. I can't wait to see where things go.
Okay.
And, that's very exciting.
Do you have any predictions at all? No? Nothing? Okay, that's
I won't
fair.
be making any
That
predictions.
is fair. That is fair. So I want to leave everyone with what you would probably identify or sum up as your leadership philosophy. What if you could, put your style, your philosophy, your values of leadership into one sentence, what would it be?
Attitude. I think just one word. Attitude, your attitude with others, your attitude about things happening, treating people with respect, being patient with everyone and yourself, and always realizing that there's a tomorrow, not over blowing things out of proportion and then losing perspective. I think an attitude helps keep things in perspective and helps you weather the storm and try to keep a positive attitude.
Excellent. So on that note, we'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to share your journey and your perspective and that positive attitude with us. On behalf of Matrix 360 and Informa Canada, we thank you for taking the time to sit with Christine and I today. And if you would like to learn more about us, please check us out on our website. Thank you.